I was initiated into my power work through the portal of grief, because grief is wild. January 2004, I receive a call from my mother. Sweetie, your dad's gonna die sometime in the next 24 hours. And I collapsed to the ground and I started wailing as my heart shattered. No one stopped. The space emptied. I pushed the corpse of my body up off of the pavement. And then I biked straight to my advisor's office to tell her I was dropping out of school. And in that moment, my heart just gently, politely, unequivocally took the reins from my mind. One of the ways I describe power is wattage. It's shocking. It's too much wattage for the vessel in that moment. So when we talk about trauma being too much, too fast, too soon, it is an electrical overwhelm. Our work has such deep intersections. Learning to stay at center and in sovereign awareness through the rolling tides of sensation and wattage that can move through our vessels.
Welcome to SoulPod, where science meets mysticism and your inner wisdom leads the way. Welcome back, light beings, to another episode of Soul Podcast. Crystal here. So excited to journey with you into a very powerful, and I use that word very intentionally, a very powerful conversation. My guest today is Larissa Conte, and she's the founder of Wayfinding and a power guide who teaches paradigm-shifting leaders how to develop power literacy, transforming power from something feared, avoided, or misused into something precise, regenerative, and built to serve the whole. We are going to get into all the things around power today. I met Larissa at MetaFest. Shout out to the MetaFest people. And instantly when I met her, I was like, yes, this is my person. She walks the talk. You can tell when somebody's done the work, and the information that they're bringing forward is embodied, it's deeply understood. And that is certainly who Larissa is. And I'm so excited to have Larissa on the podcast today. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much, Crystal. I'm so excited to be here, and have no doubt that we're going to have a rich exploration today.
No doubt. Absolutely. And so I'd love to start off going back in time a bit. So if you could take me back to that moment at the busy intersection on Stanford's campus when you got the really earth-shattering news about your dad's passing, and how that moment was so pivotal for you and what it revealed to you about what's going on in the world.
Yeah, I'm happy to. So that was 2004. That year, I was a senior at Stanford, and 2 years prior, I had started designing my master's degree, which I did co-terminally with my undergrad. I'd been investigating interdisciplinary environmental science and policy and was totally in love with it in the Earth Systems department. And then I realized I was being taught from the perspective that humans are separate from nature. And I realized that was an ecological fallacy and a cultural construction that shaped everything. That's when I started learning about the power of worldviews. And so I wanted to investigate the origin of that belief in Western civilization. So I started doing that and went through all of these different avenues, all these different aspects of culture and history, from 10,000 years ago when agriculture was developed all the way to modern day experiences in the United States. So while I'm doing that, I have this experience. January 2004, and I receive a call from my mother as I'm getting out of class, and she's crying so hard she's choking and she can't talk, and she passes the phone to my uncle, and he says, "Sweetie, your dad's gonna die sometime in the next 24 hours. He had a 24 or 48, I can't quite remember. He had a third stroke in the part of his brain that controls his heart and his lungs." And I collapsed to the ground and I started wailing as my heart shattered. And I simultaneously was above my body. I had my first out-of-body experience in that moment when I met the torrential tsunami of grief that pulled me down to the bottom of the ocean floor. I'm wailing. There are hundreds and then thousands of people just flowing around my body. I've told this story quite a lot, not just because it was painful, but because it was so formative in my psyche. Because it was a lived demonstration of all of this specific mapping and tracking that I'd been doing about disconnection consciousness, seared into the marrow of my bones. No one stopped. The space emptied. And I pushed the corpse of my body up off of the pavement. And then I biked straight to my advisor's office to tell her I was dropping out of school. And in that moment, my heart took, just gently, politely, unequivocally took the reins from my mind. And was like, we got it. We've got this. And that was the beginning of a monumental shift in my life.
Yeah, I can feel that. Monumental. Absolutely. How could it not be? There's so much about that story I find fascinating. One of them is that it's so interesting to me how uncomfortable being in grief and really feeling emotions of any sort makes people. It fascinates me and it disappoints me and it saddens me that nobody stopped. Nobody came to your aid. Nobody, what, on top of the intensity of the situation, the grief that is just, it's pure. It's just pure. It's present. There isn't any processing the grief in that moment, right? It's just grief. And that must have been, I can feel it, just so isolating and shocking also. What do you think that says about people's relationship to grief and maybe even emotion and the human experience in general?
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, yes, it was brutally painful, and it added this layer of compound trauma in that moment. Because what happened was, so I lose my dad. I know my dad's gonna die. And then in that exact same moment, I am imprinted in a 360-degree somatic way with an implicit shaming for wailing on the ground.
Yeah,
because
it's
I
the
am
shame.
rendered invisible. I am rendered unworthy of human contact. And I felt someone looking at me in that moment, and I looked up and I made eye contact with a professor with whom I had done a one-on-one directed reading within the last year. And she looked right at me, and then she turned back to her conversation.
Oh my gosh.
It's very, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And so it's devastating. It's devastating. And then we can be like, why? And in the continually unfolding breadcrumb trail that is my exploration into the nature of power, one of the ways I describe power is wattage. I define power as the capacity to move energy through systems. And so if I go back to that moment and I describe what's happening through the lens of power, and we even use it in the word shock. Shock is electrical. It's shocking. It's too much wattage for the vessel in that moment. So when we talk about trauma being too much, too fast, too soon, it is an electrical overwhelm for one person's system or vessel compared to another person's. And part of what I learned about grief, I was initiated into my power work through the portal of grief, because grief is wild. It is a wild, unruly, like totally daunting, terrifying terrain for most of us. It's a high wattage space where it's like, if you imagine stories of any person living on like a boat at sea, and there are these, mile high waves and in like class whatever 5 hurricanes, that's what grief feels like, where you're like, oh my god, we're getting thrashed, it's not like, yay, we're dry. You're like, the boat is already capsized, the boat's rolled, right, we've like barrel rolled,
you're not surfing the wave.
No. You get pulled into the undertow. And so it's a moment where power is a sensation, it's not an idea. So when we get overwhelmed by sensation, we can freeze, we can avoid. So I was overwhelmed by sensation, and the whale that was coming out of me was doing me. I wasn't wailing. I wasn't like, I'm gonna wail now.
Right.
It was like my soul like ripped. And then this whale came through, and the intensity of my feeling then hit all these other humans who maybe their own access to their emotional power was less developed. And so they were intimidated. So they actually couldn't reach past their own thresholds to express care, to reach out, to say something, to put a hand on a shoulder. So much of the practice of power is at the inner, like our work has such deep intersections. So much of it is about learning to stay. Learning to stay at center and in sovereign awareness through the rolling tides of sensation and wattage that can move through our vessels.
I love that characterization of power and that relationship to shock. I've never thought of it that way. It's an electrical experience.
Yeah.
And how this all connects. The evidence that you had in that situation is so fascinating, because it was evidence of many people at one time, not just your individual experience, but it was also weirdly, I'm sure you think of it at this point as a gift, because you got to really see societally, culturally, how uncomfortable people are in power. And like you're saying, that was evidence that at least the people around you had not found that ability yet. And I'm not saying it's easy, but that ability to just stay, like you're saying. And so much of meditation, like you were saying, is where the overlap is so much of meditation, so much of that practice is just staying when it gets uncomfortable, because you're sitting with yourself. And so many of us don't want to sit with ourselves for all kinds of different reasons. But if you can't find that center, and there is this inability to face and be around discomfort, not just within yourself, but certainly when it comes up in somebody else, I guess that makes sense then, that the reaction is to turn away. And if you really bring this out into society as it is now, and then I want to get deeper into the nature of power, society as it is now is like you've called it a meat grinder, that we're in this collective meat grinder, the intensity, the chaos, and so much of maybe what we're being asked to do. And it's interesting because my guides, I went into the channel this morning and they were saying something about when the earth is shaking, how do you find firm footing? And you become flexible. You move. The buildings that end up staying are these buildings that really have a high degree of flexibility. They're not brittle. They're not stiff. And there's an interesting through line there in this collective meat grinder that we're in. and developing this capacity to stay. How is developing that capacity to stay tied to power? Because I don't think it's immediately obvious to people that those two are related.
Yeah. I'm taking a breath as an invitation for everyone listening to also take a breath. And just notice what these words and what this conversation already is bringing up in your own body. And I'm going to keep reminding us that power is a sensation. It's not an idea. So one of the first things that I always flag for people when we begin talking about power is that we are profoundly at a disservice when engaging this topic because we don't know what we mean. It might be one of the most misunderstood words in English.
We probably assume domination.
Yeah.
Submission.
Domination, control, fuckery, authoritarianism. Certain political figures come to people's minds.
Little fascism.
Totally, and like once people like get on that focus line, then it can just keep going. And then, but then they're also like, oh, but power to the people. Or then they think about and then they're like, oh, but strength. And I'm like, well, what distinguishes those things? And people are like, oh, well, isn't power authority or influence? And it's like, but what do you mean? And then it doesn't take that many questions deep to kind of just get crickets. Because we have only a few sound bites that get recycled about the people in power, the people with power. So it's like, wait, does some people have power? Can everyone have power? What about stepping into your power? Do we all have power? So there's a linguistic fog that needs to be cleared to open into like, what are we even talking about? And the reason why I have found the exploration of power necessary for our cultural and personal healing that we're going through right now is that we are metabolizing stuckness, disconnection, calcification, and scar tissue from believing we are separated from each other, ourselves, nature, spirit, and our creatorship. Like that lives in our somas, it lives in our psyches. And so when you're talking about the brittle design of buildings that will just crumble in an earthquake versus buildings that can sway and be with the waveform of the motion of the waves that are passing through the land, the same is true for our own vessels. Can we let the waves pass through us? And the key for the waves passing through us is not having brittle, calcified, constricting, protective mechanisms, which people often describe as ego. I describe it as shadow power. So shadow power I describe as the parts that believe, they're like fragmented soul parts that believe we're separate and either better or worse. Shadow power is both of those.
Yeah, beautiful.
It's both. But like fascinatingly, most of how we talk about power is in the form of what I call shadow power over. So when movies are like, he could have used the rings for good, but he chose power. It's said in that way. And you're like, you mean domination? You mean oppression? You mean like selfishness? So there's this lack of precision. There's a mental linguistic construct that is literally shrouding the pathway to our creatorship and our sovereignty.
Ooh. Yeah, that gives me a chill. Because there's this side to power where culturally it's all about, like we're saying, this definition of power being so misunderstood, which is usually a domineering sense of power, of taking power, of it lives somewhere else and you're taking it, right? And it made me, what was coming up for me was it made me think about there's the other side of this, which is because it's framed that way, because that's the framing, we've created a vacuum as well that makes it, there's almost some shame associated with that power because
Not
it's
just
formulated.
some shame, like deep,
deep shame.
like throwing up in the corner.
Yeah.
Shame.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think I know I've definitely come up against this in my own healing and journey, is like this idea of stepping into your power, especially as women, navigating the masculine, you could call it masculine definition of power. There's definitely that shame that can come along with it. It can feel threatening. It can feel like you're going against the grain societally, and that there's something wrong with stepping into your power. But we're talking about innate power, not this external, it lives somewhere else and you have to take it from somebody. That's like a zero-sum game definition of power. There's only so much of it, just like love. There's only so much of it that I must control the flow of it, which is just not how it works. So this is so fascinating to go this deep into this concept of power. What do you think? What's another aspect of power that people really get confused about?
Well, the other two main categorizations that we'll use to orient to the meat grinder are power given away is the other form of shadow power. So if there's power over, the other imbalance is power given away. And these two forms collude within our own beings and in our relational dynamics.
Ah, okay. Yeah.
So
gotcha.
There's the power given away shape. They're really shapes that we take on. It's almost like acting. It's like there's a couple archetypes that live over here and there are a couple archetypes that live up there. And then we just toggle between them in certain terrains of life. And so right now we're seeing a lot of what's occurring in the public sphere at all scales and within our own families and communities. It's mostly dialogues between power over and power given away. And then so we can see that in political parties. But it's not like one political party is always power over and the other one's given away. They'll switch.
Right.
So
yeah.
We like to tell stories of good and bad. When we try to simplify people to good and bad, the mind is erasing the very confusing, multidimensional nature of reality. And that's just not how it is. And all of our wonderful wisdom teachers through the ages have taught us this. And so in the work that you are helping host so beautifully through SoulPod, and in the work that I host, and that so many people are hosting, that third way, that middle way, I call power that serves the whole. And if we think about it somatically, it's in so many dimensions, it's like embodying paradox.
Yes, big on this. Yeah.
So here are a couple examples. In love, the embodiment of love is as much about a sense of cohesion as it is about liberation. In learning, it's as much about what we take in and what we embody as what we shed and what we unlearn. In trust, it's as much about our openness as it is about our discernment. And that the mind wants to choose, it's like, just tell me the thing. Just tell me which one. So should I be open or should I be super discerning? Like, should I get really armored up and be really hard, or should I just be like free and welcome everyone in? And there's there's something I'd actually love for you to do your best describing what it's felt like in your consciousness and your body in any part of your own life where you saw yourself seeing two things that felt paradoxical that you then learned, like, what did it feel like to be able to contain paradoxical qualities? Like, how did you get there? What did you notice along the way? And then once it clicked in, what did it feel like?
Interesting question. Paradox. I love paradoxes. I think the deeper you get into this work and all levels, you have to get a healthy relationship with paradox. I don't know if it's a paradox, but for some reason, what's coming to mind, maybe it is, was, when my Kundalini started to move, I was trying to hold both the physical experience of a lot of energy moving through my body and the needed surrender while that energy was moving. And so one kind of like very weird, trippy experience I had is once it got to my solar plexus, and we're talking about power here, it made me nauseous. And I was trying to figure out, wait, how do I move through this experience? And I would notice once the nausea came on, the mind instantly wanted to categorize it as something, right? That is nausea, that is bad. And this is super subtle, right? So it was very interesting to me. And it would stop. My Kundalini would stop moving. I'd be like, wait, what did I do wrong? What am I missing here? And I finally figured out that when that experience came on, I could simultaneously notice that the experience was happening without putting a label to it, thereby not judging it. So it was, once I was able to do that, it could continue to move. But as soon as I introduced a label and a judgment, it would stop. And so I think for me, that was really interesting because it was required this stepping back from the experience and just being able to hold all of it without introducing the mind as much as I could to the situation. So yeah, that's what came up for me.
Thank you so much for sharing. And I'm sure so many people can relate because when we, especially, I know this from my own being and I know because Crystal and I are friends. Crystal and I both have been on healing journeys, like physical healing journeys. Not just spiritual or inner.
All the things.
Yep, all the layers, big, the whole package, the whole package.
Yeah.
That for me, for example, that moment you described of the labeling, that if whether it's physical pain or it's tension with another person, I have so many layers happen at once. I feel a vibrational dissonance or like a type of agitation. And then a muscular clenching can happen. And then a mental cognitive clenching, dilation, fixed point. And it'll point and it'll be like, don't like bad. Don't like bad. You're bad. And it's just like pointing in and it's like, you're bad. All bad, no likey, bad, And then it just starts narrating a story in the tone. And, it's like, it's almost like some part of the mind is like, let the movie run. And then all of a sudden there's this whole narrative running of like, oh God, if this happens, then I'm gonna have to go, I'm gonna get fired or I'm gonna have to go to the doctor.
I'm gonna die.
Yeah, exactly. And
that's the one I always end up at.
Totally. Yeah. It's many, many things.
Yeah.
And the practices that you host in mindfulness, the practices that I host in power literacy, so much of it is like, and this, I cannot wait to go from this to like the things we want to feel. Because right now I'm talking about things we don't want to feel. We're going to go to the things we want to feel.
Yeah.
And spoiler, the conversation's going to sound really similar. So when it's something we don't want to feel, how can we soften around it and witness it and recognize that our sovereignty is greater than whatever the experience is, greater than our fears, greater than our shame, greater than our anger. I've found it's very spatial. It's very spatial. So I found that power that serves the whole as an aspect of consciousness is literally bigger than shadow power. And so zooming
It has
out,
to be. Yeah.
Yes, it contains it, in fact.
Yeah.
Like shadow power nests within power that serves the whole. And shadow power has an important function. It's not the thing to be banished. It's not the thing to amputate. It's not to cut the cords and send the thing and get out of my way. It's the gatekeeper to our greater self. It's the edge. It's the identity we form every time we grow. We then go and we need to outgrow it. It's the edge of our understanding. We will meet it there every time we grow. And so instead of contracting when we meet it, to be like, oh, hello, okay, we're at the gym again. I see you. I see you.
That requires so much awareness, right? And it's like that. I think we're painting a really powerful picture here between where we're at as a collective and as individuals. This illiteracy, which I think is such an interesting word to attribute to it. And I like what you just said here too, to double click on that we're at the edge of our understanding. And in so many different realms, kind of all at once, but this edge of understanding, I think ultimately is the edge of understanding of who it is that we actually are as beings, as interdimensional beings. But that requires us to face our capability, our capacity for this power that we're talking about, which is power to the whole, it's a beautiful, beautiful image, and I can see glimpses of it. But right now, that shadow power is kind of taking up the lens of experience. That's what everybody's seeing in the world right now. So how do we start to increase that awareness so that we can start to better understand what's happening within us and start to tap into that power to all through the individual experience? Because it starts there, right?
Yeah. Well, if anyone's listening and you're not on the SoulPod app, that's one way you can practice it. You can listen to incredible rituals created by Crystal, which are truly, and I'm not just doing this as like, yay, I'm promoting my friend. I have done, I think, almost every ritual journey possible.
You have.
SoulPod. They are exquisite. You're an exquisite guide. And I do not say that lightly. The practice of developing focus, which is an aspect of what I call mental power. So there are dimensions of power, like mental power and love power and physical power and decision-making power, nature power, family power, privilege power, spirit power, ceremony and ritual. There are 36 types that I've mapped. And when we are wanting to develop our focus, that aspect that, like, it's almost the most important aspect of the mind. I don't like superlatives, but I'll put it is incredibly important, capability of the mind, because there's a phrase I like to use of generative focus. Part of what I know you know, and part of what you teach, and also part of what we're experiencing the consequences of a not doing, is when we focus on what we don't want, we energize what we don't want. And there's this thin line and this delicate nuance we each get to develop of the discernment between raising awareness of what we don't want, like how we learn about what we don't want through contrast, versus tipping into fixation and indulgence and perpetuating what we don't want. So an example, a like pop culture example, is last night, on the day of our recording, was the Jeff Bezos sponsored Met Gala. Very controversial.
Oh, I didn't know it was
yes, in New
Jeff
York.
Bezos. Okay.
Yes, and so there were all these protests around New York City. I live on the East Coast. All these protests and signs put up around the city, very controversial. People saying not to go, and then for the world of celebrities and fashion designers, this is a big expression of art, but it can also be an expression of opulence. So depending on your beliefs, if you're tuning in because you love fashion and you love art and you want to see, then you're fueling more of what you want. But if you are like, oh, it's like, screw this, I don't like it. And if you happen to like look at all the reels, if you go on Instagram and you're looking at things, are we just fueling what we don't want? How are we staying informed about wars, what's happening in society, versus driving the momentum of the collective machine? And so the way I like to bring that back to the self and how we actually sit in our seat of sovereignty is focus on what brings you joy and vitality as a number one, absolutely non-negotiable foundation of your life. What brings you peace, what brings you joy, what brings you clarity, what restores your center, that is the practice of generative focus. The first thing you do when you get up in the morning, tune the vessel that you inhabit. Orient your consciousness in generative ways. Set your intentions, go through your day focusing on what you want, being the radio signal of what you want to emit. Have that take up the vast majority of your day. That is one of the most potent ways to not only cultivate power that serves the whole within self, but then to ripple it out through life. And this is not for anyone who's having a spiritual bypassing response to what I'm saying. We all have to find our own balance. And the tendency to want to look out rather than to look in, part of what we get to confront is we can look out at what we don't like because we don't want to look in and take responsibility for creating things we don't like or that harm others. It's much, much easier to blame other people over whom we have zero influence or control. And then the true act of courage is to say, what can I shift in me? Because we have total sovereignty over ourselves. And also, this is getting to, if anyone's feeling heavy in your body, we're just going to take a quick seriousness break, because power, one of the things I often say to people is power is fun as fuck. And not in a narcissistic, megalomaniac way. It's like, do you like feeling alive? Do you like feeling turned on? Do you like being in community? Do you like co-creating? Do you like feeling on purpose? Do you like feeling abundant? Do you like actually having resources? Do you like feeling like you're generating good? Do you like feeling clear? Do you like feeling inspired? Do you like feeling well rested? Do you like feeling you have clear boundaries? Do you like feeling you are fucking really hilarious and just laughing it up with your friends? I am describing power that serves the whole. These are all dimensions of power that serves the whole. So it's just like a yum, 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 yum factory. But part of getting there is realizing we keep eating stuff we don't like and then complaining about it. And I mean in the like life sense, not just what we put into our physical mouths.
Yeah. Yes. So much there. I hope everybody's really taking what Larissa was saying in there. Because what you're really talking about is stepping into your creatorship, this power of being a creator and the power of focus. And I totally get how that can feel like a slippery slope into spiritual bypassing. The problem with it is that it's also true. Like, it's also important that you spend the majority of your time focusing on what it is that you want to create. And we can get into all the science of it, the spirituality of it, the field-based experience of it, of where your focus goes, your energy goes. And I think until you really start to experience that relationship consciously, not just subconsciously, that you are always creating. The difference is you might not know what you're creating because you're not directing your focus. You're not being conscious about it in a very intentional way. That's why intention's so powerful. So to your point, it invokes this responsibility that is a kind of a hard pill to swallow at first. And I get that. I very much get that. I was talking with, I was in the channel and somebody asked a question about our leadership on the planet. I channel an eighth dimensional collective, but they'd asked, no big deal. They had asked a question about the leadership on the planet and that it's such a problem. And, what do we do when we have this force working against us? And I thought their answer was exactly what you're saying, which is that they are also you, that they are humans on your planet. And for us as individuals to take responsibility for the fact that they were voted in. The responsibility for our leadership is on us. And a lot of people, on each one of us, right, as individuals and as a collective. And really taking that responsibility in, and this is just a very real world example, feels a little crunchy at first. You're like, ooh, I'm responsible. There is this inherent responsibility for what we're creating as individuals and where we're focusing. And so to your point, it's that power really starts to come in and flow when it's not so much pushing against what it is that you don't want, but you start to, I think we need a lot more dreamers, a lot more visionaries, a lot more people who are like, wait, what could be possible? What, if we don't want this, what do we want? What would that look like? How would I be? And you've said this to me, and I find it so inspiring. Instead of like looking to these people who are inspiring, being like, oh my gosh, that's so amazing. It's like, become that person. You said like, become them. The responsibility on embodying inspiration as your own experiences is also on you. It's also on us.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Can I actually take this in the direction of
yes,
like turn on, radiance, maybe also
Please.
fame.
Please.
Okay, so if we're like, like, oh God, power. And then, which then is usually because we think power equals power abuse. So that's like the first broken circuit. I'm like, no, it's not. Then, oftentimes people were like, God, but I don't have role models of what power that serves the whole looks like. And I'm like, look for them. Like, there are, one I think, shining example of power that serves the whole in popular culture is John Baptiste, musical artist.
Oh, yes. Agree.
He not only has mastery power and exquisite musical capabilities, he has community power and ceremony and ritual power and spirit power. That man is a channel. He is also like healing the divisions of the country through how he plays his shows. I've seen him twice now at Lincoln Center, his first show playing at the Met. And the opening song is This Little Light of Mine.
Oh, love.
With like bike messengers and then really, really, really like high fashion, people from like wealthier strata in society, and we're all in the audience, and I can hear people before. Some of them are kind of grumbling, and some are like, "Why isn't this started?" And some people are like, "I love John Baptiste," it's just, and then a unified field happens. And so what he's doing is he is unifying us through art, and like he understands this is the construct. This is how like the musical art world is constructed. And I would bet if for everyone listening to this, because everyone who's drawn into my world is working to shift paradigms. So I assume the same is true for your own audience. Certainly within themselves. Everyone who's drawn into my world of my work is working to shift paradigms in themselves, and then also through the work they do in the world.
Yes.
And there is this delightful aspect of paradigm shifting where it's finding a different way to dance. At first, it's like we can really lament about it and be like, "Oh, but I hate this." But it's like why be, what if we like stop focusing on it is easy to do the dance we already know, but if you don't like the dance, it's just kind of like complaining about something you don't want to eat. Like, don't do it. So then once we find like, oh, my being, my soul loves moving in this way, loves actually not having to do it all alone, not having to be the smartest person in the room, not having to kill myself, not having to spend like every waking hour away from my family, and so the life force that rushes in when we choose these shifts that are underway right now is such a huge part of the motivation to be like, yeah, that's crunchy, but damn, being alive is awesome AF. Like feeling turned on and lit up and radiant and finding my people and feeling like we're at one big cosmic dance party is a huge part of the motivation for me.
Oh, 100%.
And
Same.
it's not just not feeling pain, it's that it's literally more fun. It's more fun to be
magical.
easeful. It's way more magical. It is also a much better, like if we're talking about efficiency,
Let's talk about efficiency.
Let's talk about efficiency. Moving fast and breaking things is highly inefficient.
Oh, don't
because then you're
100%.
just moving fast and breaking people, breaking ecosystems, breaking communities, breaking cultures, breaking psyche, generating karma. Or alternately, don't work so much. Tend yourself, and then when you show up, because of your inner cultivation, you have brought a level of potency that you can accomplish something in an hour that would have formerly taken you a month to arrive at. Like,
it's a paradigm shifter.
The quantum results of this path, and I'd actually love to hear how you've experienced this as a business owner and operator. Because the manifold types of power that you've cultivated in yourself. Can you talk about like work for you earlier in your life versus work now, and some big differences, and what have been the gains of continually cultivating your inner power, and what are you like you used to assume was just how you work, and now you're like, absolutely not. Like, I would never in a million years do fill in the blank.
And I think what you're asking me here is the work that you do. If people are wondering how to shift that in their lives, go to Larissa, because this is her bread and butter. But I think for me, I mean, I still am working through that. I would say that, I used to work in biotech in Silicon Valley, and like that was the move fast and break things era, which we are still in. And people were sleeping at the office. I also come from an entrepreneurial family. So the example that I've grown up with is that to achieve something truly great, and I do think this is a belief that most people still hold, to achieve something truly great requires a really great detrimental sacrifice. It's your health, it's your family, and you hear this in Silicon Valley's conversations today, that there is no balance, really. There is no work-life balance. That's the new thing. Is like it just doesn't exist. Like if you want to do something great, you have to sacrifice something. Something falls away. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't decisions that have to be made and how you live your life that bring you joy, but I just refuse to buy into the belief that to do something great requires me to break myself, to break my life in some way. And so rewiring that belief to be, and this is a big one for me, is my relationship to time. That there's never enough time. That's one of the background running things. It's like, I have so much to do, I don't have enough time, and I've been switching that belief to, I don't need time. Because if you can enter this quantum state, time is just a construct. And I don't think this is going to be a woo-woo conversation in the years to come when we truly understand our relationship to time. And that something can happen in a moment that changes everything. If you believe that, then mountains can move. All of a sudden, the sea has parted. And I've experienced this in my work that I worked in biotech. It was really a slog. I got sick. I had an ulcer. I had to go in for like a colonoscopy and an endoscopy at the same time because I was in so much pain. And they were just like, oh yeah, you're stressed out. You're working in 3 a.m. answering emails because your mind can't slow down. And, I was meditating in the back of the office, but it wasn't going to fix the fracturing that I was doing to my physical body and my psyche, really. And so I don't look back on that as a regret, but I certainly learned a lot. And so I just work differently now. And I find it's so funny. I was off at the SoulPod retreat last week, and we had like our best week in the business ever while I was gone, while I wasn't doing anything. And so I always smile when that happens.
Look at that. Look at that. What a coinky dink.
It's wild, and I was doing a meditation intensive, not this past December, but the December before. And I was 2 weeks in just a really intensive experience. And I emerged from that experience and my life had shifted in all these ways. And it's because I had shifted in all these ways. And all of a sudden, the pieces that did not fit were moving, and the pieces that were meant to fit were coming in. I would have, if I had not done that work or started to access this beyond time, different time relationship, I would have fought those happenings or that flow. I could feel it in so many ways, but that's what I'm much more of a quantum worker at this point than I am a linear time worker. I think that's the big shift for me. How about you?
God, that was an amazing answer. Thank you. And I also so appreciate the humility in your share, because my question was not intended to set up like a manifestation. So, like that was, I have so many feelings about like manifestation industry is the way I'll say it. And so thank you for your humanity and your sharing, because I feel like what you gave voice to and what I'll join you in is as we are watching brittle thought systems and worldviews and institutions based on those things crumbling in the waves of this time, being tested in the waves of this time. And that scares the part of us that doesn't like change, which, by the way, is shadow. Shadow doesn't like change. We start realizing the costs and the externalities. You did such a beautiful job naming some of the externalities. And so externalities is a word from economics that describes things that are not accounted for in the math that we're doing. So if it's like the price of gas, for example, there are a lot of unaccounted for costs. Air pollution. Just one. That's just one. I'm not even going to outline the whole list. You know, my environmental economics older brother professor can tell you all about sort of these things. But this vision of success that we've been fed in this paradigm of work has costs that millions and millions of people are starting to say, you know what? It's not worth it. You know what? Like the chronic health epidemic in this country, people are like, I am tired of breaking my body.
Yeah. Not worth it.
No. And the involvement in industries with human rights and ecological consequences. People are like, ethically, it's not worth it. The money's just not worth it. And I also, as part of this, I want to like challenge any belief that like, okay, well then that means swinging to a super lean, no money lifestyle. That is just a reactive pendulum swing. And what you're articulating is the contemplation of what if we could have total flourishing. And I didn't say what if we can have it all intentionally.
Right.
Because that language can get really slippery for the mind. But I'm going to say several attributes that right now in my own life and for most people feel like some mythical golden goose that it's like, but how? And this is what we're all creating by pursuing with every single little effort, these paradigm shifts. So what if we, you, I, could be healthy, loved, live somewhere safe and clean and beautiful, in a tight-knit community that's mutually supportive, where there's ecological flourishing, where you have an experience of abundance, where you get to have meaningful family with your time with your family, where you get to do your purpose work, where you get to feel connected to spirit, and that you're growing and developing your mastery and benefiting society in your contributions. Those things, I'm not like asking for the whole world, right? But somehow that simple dream of being like healthy, happy, loved, belonging, flourishing, provided for isn't available to enough of us. And that's the collective revolution that we're all participating in, is like, well, what if it could be possible for every single human being on planet Earth? What if I'm not willing to throw my fellow humans anywhere under the bus?
Right. That's a decision. That's a shift, making that if that starts to become a belief that you hold in your heart, and it starts to become really that shift from belief to knowing, which is that kind of service to the whole, this power to all, actually means more power to yourself, but more wattage, more.
Yes.
It's not a diminishment of the individual experience of power. It's actually a activation of it. And I think that can be counterintuitive when you start getting into this work. But again, that comes back to this relationship to power as being finite and resource-based. You know, we are on. I wonder what you think about this. So we're on this planet.
Before we get to your like resource question, there's a quick analogy that I want to offer. Because what we currently think of as like fame and power, it's like looking at a star. That's how we describe people, as stars. Oh, certain people are stars. And in our construct of fame and power right now, we regard other people and tell the internal narrative that we ourselves are not radiant in a comparable way. But what power that serves the whole does, and this is, I was just writing about this, magnetic power at its best. It's not like charisma and like, you know, seduction. It's actually inhabiting your own radiance so fully and letting other people see it in a way such that it gives them permission to fall in love with their own light. And together we become a constellation. Like, that's actually the experience. And it is so contagious and so joy-filled, because when I see you in your light, when I see anyone else in their light, I cry tears of joy and thanks, because it is a sight to behold, and it is permission, and it is inspiration. And so I will defend your light as much as I will defend my own or anyone else's, because we can become a field of lights for each other. And that's how we get out of this false belief that there's only a couple people have it. You don't have it, babe. Sorry. You're like
the chosen ones.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's like, it's like, how could you tell like a chickadee it's unimportant, or a blueberry that it's not, it doesn't matter, or like a redwood tree that it's just like, it doesn't have the same allure as a tiger or a child. Like, this is what we do to each other. And instead, this all like power, the practice of power literacy, its best is, it's a devotional falling in love with all of life and oneself. And to be like, to me, sovereignty and generative focus, it's all like, I love myself so much that I will tend my light, because otherwise, what am I doing with my life? And it's one of the gifts that I know both you and I carry, is when you have intimate contact with death. I almost died. Crystal almost died. It's so precious being alive. It's so precious being alive.
Such a gift. Yeah.
And our definition of success is part of the trap. It's like, babe, just dance your dance. Like, I love watching you dance.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your heart with us.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, this is It's a sensation. It's not an idea.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And you were talking about that at the very beginning, that transition from the mind into the heart space, which is the activator of the spiritual system. It's not the mind. It's the heart. And then the entire system works as this the most intelligent system of consciousness. And so it's just really beautiful. Thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. It's so much more. It's all just like more like a love song than it is like a math problem. And I love math, and math can be like a love
science.
song, but it's like, and I'm not sorry, all the mathematicians. I'm so grateful for you. Thank you for what you're doing. And like, if we treat ourselves and each other's as problems to solve, it's a very different posture.
Yeah. Than an experience to be had.
How can I love you well today?
Beautiful.
Because that's an infinite game I'm interested in. It's not saying I'll be perfect every time.
Right. It's
and I know you won't either.
But I'll love you along the way.
And I just want to learn how to love you better and better. And that you is everything. Everything seen and unseen. That's a successful life to me.
Agreed. And we were talking about the science because we both love the linear.
Yeah.
But we were talking about, I think this flows into this, and then I have a rapid fire series of questions for you. But Artemis, the mission. And it's all about there's a technicality to the mission, right? It's meant to go around the moon. It's going to be a great achievement. And the thing that I think we both found so interesting wasn't necessarily the technicality of the mission and how successful it was in that regard. It was something else. What was that something else?
If everyone thought I was done waxing poetic and crying, oops, no. Oh my God. I feel like the Artemis II team of 4 people, 3 Americans, 1 Canadian, yes, displayed their mastery power and their technological power of being able to encounter this human feat that's never happened. But one of the things that one of the astronauts, Jeremy, said in the press conference that happened, I think in the first 24 hours after they back, was that if you watch the press conference of them after they've just landed, their bodies are overflowing with wattage. They have just had a consciousness expansion that so few humans who have ever lived, well, one, that only the 4 of them have ever had, but then, the original space mission, and then all astronauts who've gone to the International Space Station seeing Earth from space. The wattage in their bodies, if you watch them, they love each other and they keep touching each other and they keep hugging and they huddle after each person talks and they're in awe and they're grateful and they're humble and they just keep reflecting the love back. And Jeremy said, I don't think you're all so interested in us because of the science. Like, we have the science. It matters because of the love. They loved each other in public so well, and they embodied that collective symphony that stirs people. It's like why everyone uses the meme of a murmuration, because everyone's like, I just want to be a part of a group that like dances so like artfully in the sky, or why people love otters, or why people love swallows. You're just like these collective beings who know how to be together while being individuals. It's that it's that cohesion and liberation in love. They're distinct and individual, and they're part of the collective at the same time. And that longing of like getting to see them do that and love each other and know that we will turn towards each other and within ourselves to find our way through this. In that way, they were such timely role models for us for what we're surfing in 2026.
100% agree.
To say, may we turn in, may we turn within, because real talk, they are trapped in a capsule. They can't move very far. There's no
Very
personal
intense.
space. It's 10 days. Anyone who's ever been a wilderness guide or anything, it's like that times 1,000. Anyone who's ever been bedridden knows like what it's like to be unable to move. And they showed us this like pulling a rabbit out of a hat capacity that humans have. That it's like the only way we learn how to do things we've never done before is by having the audacity to believe we can. But then the only way that doing that is actually fun and a benefit is if we love each other along the way. So I don't know if that's what you were kind of like walking me toward. Okay,
that's
good.
Exactly what I wanted to get to.
I got the spike off your set.
Yeah, it's just if you're looking for examples of what it means to lead, be in your power truly in a way that serves all. That's another great example that I think we've covered here today. That's somewhere to look, to be inspired, and then take that on.
Exceptional power that serves the whole as a team.
Look at them, be inspired, and then go be it. So
yes,
I appreciate that so much. I have a rapid series of questions here for you that we ask all of our guests. Are you ready?
I am totally ready.
Okay. What is one belief that you've held that you no longer hold?
If it's not working, try harder.
Oh, 100%. And what is consciousness in your definition?
It's a vibration beyond language. It's a vibration that feels like breathing and witnessing and presence. It feels really oceanic and buoyant. It's profoundly loving and spacious and patient. It's also like all of the aliveness, all the sound, all the silent. It's the allness. It's the muchness.
Beautiful. And what is God, source, or oneness to you?
Whew. Well, I think I already answered that in consciousness, but I'm feeling that answer again. And it's
I would say that's a pretty good answer.
yeah.
Love that answer. Beautiful. That is it. It's a experience, right? It's not a language can be so limiting. And if it were 100 years in the future on planet Earth, what would you hope for humanity?
I hope that we remember and are living our full capacity as sovereign co-creators with each other, with all of our kin, seen and unseen, on this precious jewel of a planet, honoring the lessons that have been learned to get to where we are, and so gloriously, creatively, passionately in love with making life beautiful for each other.
Love that. Making life beautiful for each other. And Larissa, if people want to work more closely with you, where can they find you?
They can come find me at wayfinding.io.
Beautiful. Go find her. The work of power is the work of the edge of these times. And it's so important to take that time and to dedicate yourself to developing a new relationship to power, because it's going to be what's required in different ways for each of us, I think, as we move into this new phase, new way of being as a species. Thank you, Larissa, so much, truly, for sharing your wisdom, your journey, your heart with me and with everyone who's listening here today. Deeply appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Crystal. What a joy to be with you.
Truly, every time. Such a joy, such a journey.
Right.
Thank you. And until next time, light beings, thank you for joining us. Thank you for journeying with us today, light being. We hope you enjoyed the episode. And before you go, we want to invite you to explore the SoulPod app, where you can immerse yourself in daily lessons, guided meditations, and breath work to develop a soul-nourishing daily ritual and tune back into your own inner guidance system. You can download SoulPod in the App Store or directly from the show notes to start your free trial today and awaken the ancient wisdom within you.